Warkhan Drakus stood in his throne room, looking at the holographic display floating before him. The massive Vrokath ruler was 12 feet tall, covered in thick scales that had turned dark gray over centuries of battle. Scars crossed his face and arms, each one a memory of another world conquered. His yellow eyes studied the blue and green planet rotating slowly in the display. Earth. That was what the small creatures living there called it. Commander Vrex stood beside the throne, his armor gleaming in the red light of the palace. He was younger than Drakus, only 8 feet tall, but his reputation for cruelty made even other Vrokath nervous. Vrex had led the invasion of 43 worlds. Not one had lasted more than a month. Drakus touched the display, making it zoom closer to Earth. Cities appeared, small and fragile-looking. Roads connected them like thin spider webs. Vrex could see tiny vehicles moving along those roads smaller than his smallest claw. Humans, Drakus said, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. That is what they call themselves. Weak, small, soft skin that tears easily. They have primitive weapons, basic spacecraft, and divided governments that cannot agree on anything. Vrex smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. An easy conquest, my Khan. 300 ships should be more than enough. I will have them surrendering within 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Drakus laughed. Make it 1 week, Commander. I want this finished quickly. We have other worlds waiting. A door at the far end of the throne room opened. An old Vrokath entered, moving slowly. His scales were pale, almost white with age. He wore the simple robes of a priest, not the armor of a warrior. This was Takresh, keeper of ancient knowledge and advisor to the throne. Takresh approached the throne and bowed his head. My Khan, I have studied the reports from our scouts. I must speak a warning. Drakus waved a clawed hand. Speak then, Old One. This world, Earth, shows unusual patterns. The humans are fragile, yes. But they have survived many disasters on their own planet. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, deadly diseases, asteroid impacts, wars among themselves that killed millions, yet they always rebuild. They always adapt. Vrex snorted in disgust. Adaptation? What good is adaptation against our plasma cannons? What good is rebuilding when we burn their cities to ash? Takresh continued, ignoring the interruption. Their planet itself is dangerous. Stronger gravity than most worlds we have conquered. Poisonous creatures, extreme weather, disease organisms that kill in days. The humans evolved in a death world, my Khan. Not as harsh as our Krell 5, but harsh enough to make them resilient. Drakus leaned forward on his throne. Are you suggesting that these small, weak humans could resist the Vrokath Empire? We who have conquered 2,000 worlds? We who have never known defeat? I am suggesting caution, my Khan. Their military history shows creativity in warfare. They use strategy and deception where they lack strength. They fight dirty, as they say. And they have something we have rarely encountered. What is that? Drakus asked. They refuse to accept extinction. In their history, when faced with total destruction, they become more dangerous, not less. They call it having nothing left to lose. Vrex slammed his fist on the floor, cracking the stone. Enough of this cowardice. We are Vrokath. We are the strongest warriors in the galaxy. These humans will break like all the others. They will see our ships in their sky and beg for mercy, and we will give them slavery instead. Drakus studied Takresh for a long moment. The old priest had served him well for many years. His warnings had saved lives before. But this time felt different. This time, caution seemed like weakness. I respect your wisdom, Takresh, Drakus said finally. But Commander Vrex is right. We have never failed. We will not fail now. Prepare the fleet. Takresh bowed again, deeper this time. He said nothing more. There was nothing more to say. The decision was made. 3 days later, the Vrokath fleet assembled in orbit around Krell 5. 300 warships, each one larger than the biggest human vessel. Each ship carried 1,000 warriors, weapons that could burn cities, and shields that could withstand nuclear blasts. Vrex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fang. Through the viewport, he could see the other ships forming up in attack formation. It was beautiful, he thought. A fleet of destruction ready to claim another world for the Empire. Set course for Earth, he ordered. Maximum speed. I want to arrive before they even know we are coming. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, traveling faster than light. The journey would take 10 days. Vrex spent that time planning the invasion. First, they would destroy the satellites the humans used for communication. Then orbital bombardment of their military bases. Then landing parties to establish control. Simple. Efficient. Final. On Earth, astronomers detected something strange. Multiple objects moving through space, heading directly toward the solar system. The objects were massive, moving impossibly fast. Within hours, every space agency on Earth was tracking them. Within a day, every government knew the truth. Humanity was not alone in the universe. And whoever was coming, they were not friendly. Emergency meetings happened in every capital city. The United Nations convened. Military commanders reviewed every defense plan they had. Scientists worked desperately to understand the alien technology. But everyone knew the truth that nobody wanted to say out loud. Earth had no real defense against this. Whatever was coming, humanity would face it with weapons designed for fighting each other, not alien invaders with technology centuries ahead of their own. The Vrokath fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Vrex broadcast his message on all frequencies in all languages. His translators had studied human communication. The message was simple. People of Earth, I am Commander Vrex of the Vrokath Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately and completely. Accept slavery. Your soldiers will drop their weapons. Your leaders will submit to Vrokath authority. You have 1 Earth day to comply. He paused, letting the words sink in across the planet below. If you refuse, we will burn your cities. We will destroy your military. We will kill billions until the rest beg for slavery. Choose quickly. Choose wisely. The Vrokath Empire has never been defeated. The message ended. Vrex sat back in his command chair, satisfied. In 24 hours, he expected Earth's leaders to appear on their primitive television broadcasts announcing surrender. It always happened this way, but 24 hours passed with no surrender. Instead, Earth went silent. Radio transmissions stopped. Cities went dark. It was as if the entire planet was holding its breath. Vrex was not concerned. Silence was just another form of fear. He gave the order. Begin the bombardment. Plasma beams lanced down from orbit. Military bases exploded in balls of fire. Government buildings turned to rubble. Airports and naval stations vanished in clouds of smoke. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, smoke covered large parts of the planet. Send the landing parties, Vrex ordered. Major cities first. Show them that resistance is pointless. Transport ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. Vrokath warriors stood ready in the cargo holds, weapons charged, armor sealed. They had done this hundreds of times before on hundreds of worlds. This would be no different. The first transport landed in Seoul. The rear door opened. 50 Vrokath warriors marched out into the ruined city, expecting to find terrified civilians running in panic. Instead, they found humans with guns, hiding in the rubble, waiting. The first shots rang out. Bullets bounced off Vrokath armor, doing no damage. The warriors laughed and raised their plasma rifles. Then something exploded beneath their feet. A hidden bomb. 3 warriors fell, their armor cracked open. More explosions, more gunfire. The humans were not running. They were fighting. And they were not fighting fair. By nightfall, 15 Vrokath warriors were dead. The landing party retreated to their transport and lifted off. Similar reports came from Tokyo, New York, Moscow, Mumbai. Every landing party faced unexpected resistance. Every landing party took casualties. Vrex stared at the reports in disbelief. This was not how invasions worked. This was not how weak species behaved. They were supposed to break. They were supposed to surrender. Instead, the humans were fighting back. And something in the way they fought made Vrex remember Takresh's warning. Something about refusing to accept extinction. Something about becoming more dangerous, not less. For the first time in his life, Commander Vrex felt something he had never experienced before in battle. Doubt. Colonel Hajin Park crouched in the ruins of what used to be a shopping mall. Around him, 15 men and women checked their weapons in silence. They were not professional soldiers anymore. The military bases were smoking craters now. These were survivors, office workers, teachers, students, people who had learned to fight because the alternative was slavery or death. Hajin had been special forces before the invasion. He knew how to fight guerrilla wars. Hide, strike, disappear. Make the enemy pay for every inch of ground. That was the only way to fight an enemy with superior weapons and numbers. Through a crack in the rubble, he watched the Vrokath patrol moving down the street below. 6 warriors, each one carrying weapons that could punch through concrete. Their armor glowed faintly in the darkness. That glow would be their mistake. Remember, Hajin whispered to his team, aim for the joints, neck, knees, places where the armor connects. Do not waste bullets on the chest plates. The Vrokath patrol entered the kill zone. Hajin raised his fist, then dropped it. Explosions erupted beneath the aliens' feet. Buried mines that Do-hyun, the young engineering student, had built from fertilizer and old phone parts. The blasts knocked 3 Vrokath off their feet. Before they could recover, gunfire poured down from 5 different positions. Hajin fired carefully, aiming for the neck joint of the nearest warrior. His first 3 shots bounced off. The 4th found a gap. Dark blood sprayed. The Vrokath collapsed. The battle lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, all 6 Vrokath were dead. Hajin's team had lost 2 people. Not a good exchange, but better than the alternative. Every dead alien was one less conqueror. Every small victory proved that humans could fight back. Take their weapons, Hajin ordered. Strip the power cells. We need everything. Do-hyun was already kneeling beside a dead Vrokath, studying the alien rifle with eager eyes. The young man had an instinct for technology. Give him any machine and he could figure out how it worked. He had already built 3 different weapons from salvaged Vrokath equipment. Their power cells are amazing, Do-hyun said, disconnecting one carefully. So much energy in such a small package. I think I can use these to make something that actually hurts them. How long? Hajin asked. Give me 3 days, maybe less. They retreated through the subway tunnels that Hajin's group had been using as their base. The Vrokath never followed them underground. Maybe the tunnels were too small for their massive bodies. Maybe they were too confident to chase. Either way, the tunnels were safe. In another part of the city, Dr. Minji Kwan worked in a makeshift laboratory. Before the invasion, she had studied alien life, never expecting to meet any. Now she had 3 dead Vrokath bodies to examine, brought by another resistance group. Minji cut carefully into the armor of one corpse. The material was incredibly tough. Some kind of composite metal she had never seen before. But beneath the armor, the Vrokath body was more familiar. Muscles, bones, blood vessels. All biology followed certain rules no matter what planet you came from. She found the weak points, the armor joints, the neck gap, the place where the helmet connected to the chest piece. She found something else too. The Vrokath eyes were sensitive to certain light frequencies. Too much bright light in the right spectrum and they would be temporarily blinded. Minji wrote everything down carefully. Her notes would be copied and distributed to every resistance cell they could reach. Knowledge was a weapon too, maybe the most important weapon they had. On the Vrokath command ship, Commander Vrex slammed his fist on the tactical display. 3 months had passed since the invasion began. 3 months and Earth was still fighting. Casualty reports came in every day. 10 warriors lost here, 20 there. Small numbers individually, but they were adding up. How? He roared at his officers. How are these weak creatures killing our warriors? One officer, braver than the others, spoke up. They use guerrilla tactics, Commander. They do not face us in open battle where our strength would crush them. They hide, they use traps. They attack supply lines and communication posts, and they are learning to exploit weaknesses in our armor. Then burn them out. Destroy their hiding places. We have tried, Commander. When we destroy one hiding place, they move to another. The cities are massive. Millions of places to hide. And when we bomb one area, the survivors just fight harder. Vrex growled deep in his throat. This was wrong. Invasions did not work like this. The conquered were supposed to break. They were supposed to lose hope. Instead, every human they killed seemed to create 2 more fighters. What do they want? Vrex asked. We offered them slavery. A chance to live. Why do they choose death instead? The officer hesitated, then answered, "Our translators have intercepted human communications. They have a saying, 'Give me liberty or give me death.' They would rather die free than live as slaves." "Foolish," Rex said. But somewhere deep inside, a small part of him wondered if it was foolish or if it was something else. Something the Vrokath had forgotten in their centuries of easy conquests. Do-hyun finished his new weapon on schedule. He called it the plasma cutter. It used a Vrokath power cell connected to human electronics, creating a focused beam of energy that could slice through the alien armor. It was crude, heavy, and probably unsafe, but it worked. Hajin tested it on a piece of salvaged armor. The beam cut through in seconds. He smiled, the first real smile in months. "Can you make more?" he asked. "If we have the parts. Each one needs a Vrokath power cell, which means we need to kill more of them to get the cells to kill more of them." Do-hyun laughed without humor. "Strange math, but that is war." Word spread through the resistance networks. Dr. Minji's notes on Vrokath weaknesses. Do-hyun's weapon designs. Hajin's tactical successes. Humans were learning, adapting, finding ways to turn the enemy's strength into weakness. A month later, resistance cells launched a coordinated attack on the Vrokath forward base in Tokyo. 200 human fighters against 50 Vrokath warriors. The aliens had superior weapons and armor. The humans had determination and the element of surprise. The battle raged for 6 hours. Humans used every trick they had learned: flash grenades to blind the Vrokath, plasma cutters to punch through armor, coordinated fire on weak points, traps and ambushes at every turn. When dawn came, the Vrokath base was destroyed. 47 aliens lay dead. The humans had lost 130 fighters, but they had won. A real victory against an enemy that was supposed to be unbeatable. The 3 surviving Vrokath retreated to their transport ship and fled into orbit. They brought news that Commander Vrex did not want to hear. The humans were winning. Vrex stared at the tactical display showing Earth below. Red zones marked areas of heavy resistance. They covered half the planet now. His 300 ships still surrounded the planet. But what good was orbital superiority when the ground forces could not hold territory? He composed a message to Warkhan Drakus. Every word was painful to write. Commander Vrex had never asked for help before. He had never needed it. But pride was worthless if it led to defeat. "My Khan," the message began, "Earth's resistance is beyond anything we have encountered. The humans fight with creativity and determination that defies our standard tactics. They learn from every battle. They adapt faster than we can adjust. I request reinforcements, 1,000 additional warriors, heavier weapons, or permission to use planetary bombardment to break their will." He sent the message and waited. The response came 3 days later. Warkhan Drakus appeared on the display, his scarred face twisted in rage. "Reinforcements? You ask me for reinforcements against a species that does not even have faster-than-light travel. You command 300 warships and cannot defeat one primitive planet? My Khan, these humans are different. They silence. I will hear no excuses. You will crush them with the forces you have, or I will find a commander who can. If you fail, Vrex, I will have you executed for incompetence. Do you understand?" "Yes, my Khan." The display went dark. Vrex sat alone in his command chamber, feeling something he had never felt before. Not just doubt now, fear, real fear that he might fail. That he might die not in glorious battle, but in disgrace. He made his decision. If the Khan would not give him more warriors, then he would use the warriors he had more brutally. No more mercy, no more restraint. He would start executing human prisoners, bombing civilian centers, burning entire cities if necessary. He would break the humans through terror and pain. But what Vrex did not understand, what the Vrokath Empire had never learned in all its conquests, was something that old Takresh had tried to warn them about. Humans with nothing left to lose do not break. They do not surrender. They become more dangerous than anything the galaxy has ever seen. And Earth was about to show the Vrokath Empire exactly what that meant. 6 months. That was how long the war had been grinding on. 6 months of fighting in the rubble of cities. 6 months of small victories and heavy losses. 6 months of learning that the Vrokath could bleed. Admiral Bowman Choi stood in the underground command center that had become Earth's military headquarters. Before the invasion, he had commanded naval vessels. Now he commanded whatever forces humanity could scrape together: soldiers, civilians, scientists, engineers, anyone who could fight or build or plan. On the display screen in front of him, A young woman was presenting an impossible idea. Her name was Yuna Kim. She had been an aerospace engineer before the war. Now she was proposing something that sounded like suicide. "We have been reverse engineering Vrokath technology for months," Yuna explained. Her voice was steady despite the crazy plan she was suggesting. "We understand their power systems now, their sensors, their shields. And I believe we can build a ship that can slip past their orbital defenses." "A stealth ship," Bowman said, "using their own technology against them." "Exactly, small, fast, invisible to their scanners if we code it correctly. It would not be much. Maybe room for 12 people. No weapons except what they carry. But it could get a strike team into orbit." "To do what?" Bowman asked, though he already knew the answer. "To destroy their orbital command station. Every Vrokath operation on Earth is coordinated from that station. Their troop movements, supply drops, air support, everything. If we take it out, their ground forces lose their eyes and ears. They become blind and confused." Bowman studied the plans she had brought. They were detailed, carefully thought out. But they were still a long shot. "How long to build this ship?" 2 months. Maybe less if we push hard. We have the materials. Most of it salvaged from Vrokath wrecks. We have the people. Engineers who have been waiting for a chance to hit back. And the crew? Who would volunteer for a mission like this? Yuna smiled sadly. "Admiral, I could fill that ship 3 times over with volunteers. Everyone has lost someone. Everyone wants to strike back. The question is not who will volunteer. The question is who we choose." Bowman made his decision. "Build it. I will find your crew." 2 months later, Colonel Hodgen Park stood in front of a small spacecraft that looked like nothing he had ever seen. It was a patchwork of human and alien technology. Ugly. Crude. But according to Yuna, it would fly, and more importantly, it would be invisible to Vrokath sensors. Beside him stood 11 other volunteers. Marines who had survived impossible battles. Engineers who knew Vrokath technology inside and out. Explosives experts who could turn anything into a bomb. They were the best humanity had left. And they were about to attempt something that had never been done. They were going to attack the Vrokath in space. Yuna ran through the final checks with Hajin. The stealth coding will hide you from their sensors, but only if you keep your power low. No weapons, no active scanning. You drift up quiet and slow. The station has a maintenance airlock on the lower section. Minimal security because they never thought anyone could reach it. And once we are inside, Hajin asked, get to the reactor core. Plant the charges. Get out if you can. But Hajin, she paused. The chances of getting out are very small. I know. Your people know? They know. They volunteered anyway. Hajin looked at his team loading equipment into the small ship. We are all dead anyway if we do nothing. At least this way we die making a difference. The launch happened at night. The small ship rose silently from a hidden facility, its engines barely glowing. Vrokath sensors swept past it, detecting nothing. Just empty space. Just darkness. Inside the cramped vessel, Hajin and his team sat in silence. There was nothing to say. They had all said their goodbyes. Written their last messages. Made their peace. The orbital station grew larger in their viewport. It was massive, a floating fortress bristling with weapons and sensors. 300 Vrokath warriors lived and worked inside, and somewhere in the center, Commander Vrex directed the war against Earth. They found the maintenance airlock exactly where the intelligence report said it would be. The ship docked with barely a whisper. Hajin's team moved into the station wearing stolen Vrokath environment suits. They were too small for real Vrokath, but in the dim maintenance corridors they might pass a quick inspection. They moved quickly and quietly through the station. Twice they heard Vrokath warriors approaching and hid inside passages. Once they had to kill a lone technician who spotted them. They dragged the body into a storage room and kept moving. The reactor core was in the center of the station, protected by heavy doors and security systems. But Do-hyun, the young engineer, had studied captured Vrokath systems. He knew how to fool their security, knew how to make the doors think authorized personnel were entering. The doors opened. They were in. The reactor was beautiful in a terrible way, a glowing sphere of contained energy, powerful enough to run the entire station, powerful enough to destroy it too if properly disrupted. They placed the charges carefully. Explosives wired to the reactor controls, set to overload the containment field. When they detonated, the reactor would tear itself apart in seconds. Alarms started blaring. Somehow, somewhere, they had been detected. "Go!" Hajin shouted. "Back to the ship." They ran through the corridors. Vrokath warriors were converging on their position from all directions. Gunfire echoed through the metal hallways. Hajin's team fired back, dropping 2 aliens but losing 3 of their own. They reached a junction and found their path blocked by Commander Vrex himself, flanked by 6 warriors. The massive alien commander stood 12 feet tall in his battle armor. His plasma rifle was already raised. "Humans," Vrex snarled. "Insects who thought they could invade my station." "You will die here." "Maybe," Hajin said. He was already calculating. 8 enemies, 9 remaining humans. No way to win this fight. But he did not need to win. He just needed to buy time. "But we are taking you with us." The firefight was brutal and short. Vrokath plasma burned through human cover. Human bullets found gaps in alien armor. Bodies fell on both sides. In the chaos, Hajin found himself face to face with Vrex. The commander swung his massive fist. Hajin ducked, but not fast enough. The blow caught his shoulder, breaking bones. He rolled away, gasping in pain. Vrex advanced, confident in his strength. "You fought well for an insect. But strength always wins." "No," Hajin said, pulling the detonator from his belt with his good hand. "Determination wins." He pressed the button. In the reactor core, the charges exploded. The containment field collapsed. The reactor began to overload. Emergency systems screamed warnings throughout the station. Vrex's eyes widened in understanding. "No, you could not have." "We did," Hajin said. "Tell your Khan that humanity does not surrender." The station exploded in a flash of white light visible across half of Earth. The reactor breach tore the structure apart in seconds. Every Vrokath on board died instantly. Commander Vrex, 300 warriors. The entire command infrastructure for the invasion. Gone. On Earth, resistance fighters saw the explosion in the night sky. They knew what it meant. They knew who had done it, and they attacked. All across the planet, human forces launched coordinated strikes. The Vrokath, suddenly blind without their orbital command, found themselves fighting confused and disorganized. Supply lines collapsed. Communication broke down. Units were isolated and surrounded. For the first time since the invasion began, Vrokath forces retreated. They fell back to fortified positions, trying to regroup, but the momentum had shifted. The hunters had become the hunted. Admiral Bowman Choi watched the tactical displays update in real time. Red zones turning blue. Enemy positions collapsing. Human forces advancing. "They did it," he whispered. Hajin and his team actually did it. Yuna Kim stood beside him, tears running down her face. She had built the ship. She had sent those 12 people to their deaths. And they had succeeded. "We need to push the advantage," Bowman said, forcing himself to focus. "Hit them everywhere at once. Drive them off our world. And then?" Yuna asked. "Then we make sure they never come back. We take the fight to them." Far away on Krell 5, Warcon Dracus received the news of the orbital station's destruction. His command center went silent. His advisors waited for his rage, but Dracus did not rage. He sat on his throne, staring at the tactical displays showing his empire. And for the first time in his long life, the Warcon felt something cold settling in his chest. Doubt. Because the reports were coming in from other worlds now. Conquered species hearing about Earth's resistance. Conquered species starting to rebel. The empire he had built through fear was beginning to crack, and it was all because of one small, stubborn species that refused to accept defeat. 1 year. That was how long it took to drive the Vrokath completely off Earth. 1 year of brutal fighting, city by city, zone by zone. But humanity won. The last Vrokath transport ship fled into space, carrying the survivors of an invasion force that had once numbered 30,000 warriors. Now Earth stood at a crossroads. They could rebuild. They could recover. They could hope the Vrokath never returned. Or they could make sure the Vrokath never threatened anyone again. Admiral Soo-hyun Kang stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's first true warship. It was built from salvaged Vrokath technology and human innovation, smaller than a Vrokath cruiser but faster, weaker shields but better weapons. It represented something the galaxy had never seen before. Human technology adapted for space warfare. Behind the Defiance sailed 20 more ships, cruisers, destroyers, and supply vessels. A fleet built in secret over the past year, hidden in orbital shipyards using Vrokath construction techniques. Crewed by humans who had been sailors, pilots, and engineers before the war taught them to be warriors. Soo-hyun had been a civilian pilot before the invasion. She had flown cargo planes, enjoying the freedom of the skies. Then the Vrokath came and turned her world into fire. She learned to fight. She learned to command. And now she was leading humanity into space for the first time as conquerors of their own destiny. Target system ahead, her navigator reported. Talvos Prime. Records indicate it has been under Vrokath control for 300 years. Soo-hyun studied the tactical display. Talvos Prime was a mining world. The native species, the Talvosians, had been enslaved by the Vrokath centuries ago, forced to dig valuable minerals from their own planet while their masters grew fat on the profits. Vrokath garrison? She asked. 200 warriors. 1 orbital platform. Standard occupation force. They are not expecting us, Soo-hyun said with a cold smile. Let us keep it that way. All ships, battle stations. Captain Hyunwoo. Prepare your Marines for ground assault. Captain Hyunwoo Nam checked his armor one last time. The young Marine officer had fought in Seoul during the invasion. He had seen friends die, had killed Vrokath warriors in close combat, had learned that courage was not the absence of fear but the decision to act despite it. Now he commanded 200 Marines, the best fighters humanity could produce. They were about to liberate an alien world, make first contact with a species that had never known freedom in living memory. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Talvos system. They moved in fast, weapons hot. The Vrokath orbital platform detected them too late. By the time the aliens raised shields, human missiles were already streaking toward them. The platform exploded. Vrokath warriors on the ground looked up in confusion. Their orbital support was gone, and strange ships were descending through the atmosphere. Hyunwoo's transport landed outside the main Vrokath garrison. His Marines deployed with practiced efficiency. They had learned the hard way how to fight these enemies. Aim for the joints. Use speed and cover. Hit fast and hard. The Vrokath warriors rushed out to meet them, expecting an easy fight. They found humans using their own plasma weapons against them. Found humans who knew every weakness in Vrokath armor. Found humans who fought with a fury born from months of desperate survival. The battle was over in 3 hours. The Vrokath garrison was destroyed. Not a single alien warrior survived. Human casualties were light. 15 wounded, 3 dead. Victory. But the real work came next. The Talvosians emerged from the mine slowly, afraid of what the new invaders would do. They were thin, pale creatures with large eyes adapted for darkness. They had been slaves for so long that freedom seemed impossible. Hyunwoo removed his helmet so they could see his face. He held his hands out, palms empty. "We are humans from Earth," he said through a translator device. "We are not here to conquer you. We are here to free you." The Talvosians stared in disbelief. Freedom? No conqueror in their history had offered freedom. "The Vrokath enslaved you," Hyunwoo continued. "They enslaved many worlds. But their empire is falling. Species across the galaxy are rising up. We humans fought them on our world and won. Now we offer to help you stay free." An old Talvosian stepped forward. He had scars from a lifetime of labor. Why would you help us? What do you want in return?" "We want what you want," Hyunwoo said. "We want to live without fear. We want our children to grow up free. And we learned something fighting the Vrokath. We learned that strength is not just about having the biggest weapons. Real strength comes from standing together." The old Talvosian looked at his people, looked at the destroyed Vrokath garrison, looked at the human warriors who had risked their lives for strangers. "Then we will stand with you," he said. News of Talvos Prime's liberation spread quickly. Ambassador Jiwoo Song, humanity's first diplomat to alien species, used it as a foundation. She traveled to other freed worlds, spoke with species that had suffered under Vrokath rule, offered alliance instead of domination, offered cooperation instead of conquest. The Skirin, a species of medical experts, joined first. Then the Kellyan warriors, fierce fighters who had been enslaved for their combat skills. Then the Mulvari traders who knew every smuggling route in the galaxy. Each species brought something unique. Each species chose freedom. The coalition grew. 20 worlds, 50, 100, all united against their former oppressor. And at the center of it all was humanity. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they understood something the Vrokath never learned. Leadership through inspiration was more powerful than leadership through fear. Warkhan Drakus watched his empire crumble. Rebellions broke out on world after world. Species he had thought broken forever were rising up, and they were learning from the humans. Learning guerrilla tactics, learning to exploit Vrokath weaknesses, learning to fight smart instead of fighting strong. He assembled the largest fleet he could. 1,000 warships, 50,000 warriors. He would retake Talvos Prime personally, would make an example of the humans and their allies, would show the galaxy that the Vrokath Empire could not be challenged. The fleet arrived at Talvos with overwhelming force. But the coalition was waiting. Admiral Suhyun commanded a fleet of 300 ships now. Vessels from a dozen different species all working together. The Vrokath had more ships, but the coalition had something better. They had unity. They had strategy. And they had nothing left to lose. The Battle of Talvos began with both fleets maneuvering for position. Drakus expected a traditional engagement. Ship against ship. Strength against strength. That was how the Vrokath had always fought. But Suhyun had learned from Earth's defense. Do not fight the way your enemy expects. Use your advantages. Exploit their weaknesses. The coalition fleet scattered. Smaller ships using their speed to surround the Vrokath formation. Kellyan fighters darted in, attacking weak points and retreating before the heavy Vrokath guns could track them. Mulvari ships used jamming technology, confusing enemy sensors. Human vessels coordinated everything, their commanders directing the battle with precision. The Vrokath fleet, built for overwhelming force, found itself overwhelmed by tactics it did not understand. Ships that should have been easy targets vanished into weapons range and disappeared. Formations that should have been solid fractured under coordinated strikes. Drakus stood on his command ship, watching his fleet being picked apart. For the first time in his long life, the Warkhan understood what Takresh had tried to warn him about. Physical strength meant nothing if your enemy could think faster than you could strike. Suhyun saw her chance. The Vrokath command ship was exposed, its escorts drawn out of position by feints and false attacks. She ordered a full assault. 20 human and Talvosian ships converged on Drakus's vessel. Their combined firepower hammered the shields until they collapsed. Missiles struck the hull, tearing through armor. The command ship's engines exploded, leaving it crippled and drifting. The Vrokath fleet saw their leader's ship disabled, saw their formation broken, saw victory turning to defeat. They did what no Vrokath fleet had ever done before. They retreated. Drakus's ship was recovered by the coalition. The Warkhan himself was found on the bridge, wounded but alive. Suhyun ordered him brought aboard the Defiance under guard. She stood before the massive alien commander, this creature who had conquered 1,000 worlds. He looked smaller now, stripped of his armor and his pride. Why? Drakus asked. His voice was weak. Why did you not finish it? Why did you not destroy my ship? Because we are not you, Suhyun said. We do not kill when we do not have to. We offer you a choice now, Warkhan. Surrender. Order your forces to stand down. Help us build a galaxy where no one lives in fear. Or die here and watch your empire fall anyway. Drakus stared at her. At this small, fragile creature from a primitive world. A world he had thought would be an easy conquest. And he realized something terrible. He had already lost. The coalition fleet surrounded Krell 5, the Vrokath homeworld, the planet that had spawned an empire of fear and cruelty, the Deathworld where the Vrokath had evolved their incredible strength and their terrible arrogance. Admiral Suhyun Kang stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the planet below. She could end this war right now. Could order orbital bombardment. Could burn Krell 5 the way the Vrokath had burned so many other worlds. Could give them exactly what they had given to others. But that would make her no different than them. Instead, she opened a communication channel. Her message would broadcast across the entire planet. Every Vrokath would hear it. Every warrior. Every civilian. Every child, people of Krell 5, she began. I am Admiral Suhyun Kang of the Galactic Coalition. Your empire is defeated. Your fleets are scattered. Your conquered worlds are free. We have Warkhan Drakus in custody. This war is over. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. You have two choices. You can fight to the last warrior and watch your world burn, or you can surrender. Lay down your weapons. Accept that the age of Vrokath domination is finished. If you choose peace, we will help you rebuild. Not as slaves, not as subjects, but as equals in a new galaxy. We do not want revenge. We want peace. But make no mistake, If you choose to fight, we will win. And your children will inherit ashes instead of stars. Choose wisely. You have one day, the message ended. Suyun turned to her officers. Prepare ground forces. If they reject peace, we end this. On Krell 5, in the ruins of the Obsidian Palace, the remaining Vrokath military leaders gathered. They argued. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. None could agree. Then a door opened. An old Vrokath entered, moving slowly. His scales were pale, almost white with age. He wore simple robes, not armor. This was Takresh, the priest who had warned Dracus about humanity. The priest who had been imprisoned for his warnings. The humans offer peace, one general snarled. It is a trick. They will enslave us like we enslaved others. No, Takresh said quietly. They will not. I have studied them. They are different from us. They fight when they must, but they prefer peace. They offer what we never offered anyone. A choice. Then we choose to fight, another general roared. We are Vrokath. We do not surrender. And what will that accomplish? Takresh asked. Our fleet is destroyed. Our empire is gone. Our conquered worlds are free. If we fight, we die. If we surrender, we live. Which serves our people better? Better to die with honor than live in shame. There is no honor in choosing extinction, Takresh said. Our ancestors survived this harsh world not through pride, but through adaptation. We forgot that lesson. We thought strength meant domination, but the humans taught us different. True strength includes knowing when to stop fighting. The generals argued for hours, but slowly reality settled in. They were defeated. Fighting would only kill more of their people, and the humans strangely were offering mercy. The next day, the Vrokath broadcast their answer. They would surrender, but not everyone agreed with the decision. A group of hardline warriors, led by a general who refused to accept defeat, seized control of weapons platforms near the palace. They would make one last stand. Would force the coalition to fight. Would prove that Vrokath warriors never surrendered. Captain Hyunwoo Nam and his marines landed at the palace complex. They moved carefully through the massive structures built for creatures twice their size. Around them, most Vrokath civilians watched but did not fight. The war was over for them. But ahead, in the throne room, the hardliners waited. Hyunwoo entered the throne room with 20 marines. 50 Vrokath warriors stood ready, armed and armored. At their center stood their general, a massive warrior even by Vrokath standards. We do not have to do this, Hyunwoo called out. Your leaders have surrendered. The war is over. Lay down your weapons and you will be treated fairly. Never, the general growled. We are Vrokath. We do not surrender to weak species. We do not accept defeat from creatures that should have been our slaves. Then you will die for nothing, Hyunwoo said sadly. Your empire is finished. Your people want peace. You fight only for your pride, and pride is everything. The general charged. The battle was brief and brutal. The hardline warriors fought with desperate fury, but they were trapped in their own throne room, outnumbered by coalition forces surrounding the building. Hyunwoo's marines used every advantage, cover, coordinated fire, targeting weak points. The Vrokath general fell last, still refusing to surrender even as his warriors lay dead around him. He died clutching his weapon, cursing the humans with his final breath. Hyunwoo stood over the body, feeling no triumph, only sadness. So much death, so much waste, all because some beings could not accept that strength alone was not enough. Takresh entered the throne room slowly, leaning on a walking staff. He looked at the dead warriors, at the ruined throne, at the humans who had conquered the unconquerable. They died for pride, he said quietly. The same pride that built this empire. The same pride that destroyed it. What happens now? Hyunwoo asked. Now we learn, Takresh said. We learn that there are other ways to be strong. Other ways to survive. The humans came from a death world just like us. But they learned cooperation where we learned domination. Perhaps it is not too late for us to learn that lesson too. Ambassador Jiwoo Song arrived on Krell 5 the next day. She met with Vrokath leaders in what had been the palace, now serving as a temporary government center. She brought an offer. The Vrokath could join the Galactic Coalition. Not as slaves, not as conquered enemies, but as members working toward a common goal: peace, security, freedom for all species. Many Vrokath rejected the offer at first. Their pride was wounded. Their empire was gone. Accepting help from those they had tried to conquer felt like the ultimate defeat. But slowly, things changed. Dr. Minji Kwon, the xenobiologist who had studied Vrokath weaknesses during the war, now studied how to help them adapt to peace. She established medical centers, helped Vrokath civilians injured in the war, treated them with respect and care. Young Vrokath, those who had not fought in the wars, were curious about the humans. They learned human languages, studied human history, tried to understand how such a small, weak species had defeated them, and gradually, they understood. Strength was not just physical power. Strength was adaptability, cooperation, the willingness to learn and change. War Khan Drakus was tried for war crimes by a coalition tribunal. He stood before judges from a dozen species, including humans. They found him guilty of countless atrocities, of enslaving worlds, of ordering the deaths of billions. He expected execution. That was what he would have done to a defeated enemy. But the tribunal gave him life imprisonment instead. He would spend his remaining years confined, forced to watch as the galaxy he had tried to conquer built something better without him. 5 years passed. The Galactic Coalition grew stronger. Former slave worlds rebuilt. New technologies emerged from cooperation between species. Trade routes opened. Cultural exchanges happened. The galaxy was healing. On Earth, in the rebuilt city of Seoul, a memorial was unveiled. It honored all who had died in the war, human and alien alike, because the coalition had learned something important. Every life mattered. Every loss deserved remembrance. Admiral Soo-hyun Kang, now retired, stood at the memorial alongside a young Vrokath. The alien was a soldier in the new coalition peacekeeping force. He wore a uniform that bore the symbols of a dozen species working together. "My grandfather fought against you," the young Vrokath said quietly. "He died in the Battle of Talvos. I grew up hating humans for that." Soo-hyun nodded. "I lost friends too. Many of them. The war cost everyone. But you could have destroyed us," the Vrokath continued. "You could have done to Krell 5 what we tried to do to Earth. Why did you not?" Soo-hyun looked at the memorial, at the names carved in 100 languages. "Because we remembered what it felt like to face extinction. We remembered the fear, the desperation, and we decided that cycle had to end somewhere. If we wanted a better galaxy, we had to be better than our enemies. Was it worth it? All the death? All the sacrifice?" Soo-hyun smiled sadly. "Look around. Former enemies working together, former slaves living free, species that were at war now building peace. Yes, it was worth it. Not because we won the war, but because we chose to win the peace." The young Vrokath was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that would have been unthinkable during the Empire's reign. "Thank you for not giving up, for not becoming like us, for showing us there was another way." Years later, when historians studied the fall of the Vrokath Empire, they focused on the battles, the tactics, the technology, but they missed the real reason humanity won. It was not because humans were stronger. They were not. It was not because they had better weapons. They did not. It was not even because they were smarter, though their adaptability helped. Humanity won because when faced with extinction, they chose to become more human, not less. They chose cooperation over domination. They chose mercy over revenge. They chose to build instead of destroy. The Vrokath had ruled through fear for centuries. They thought that made them strong. But fear is fragile. Break it once and it shatters forever. Humanity ruled through hope. And hope, once kindled, spreads like wildfire across the stars.